All characters are fictional, their actions assessments of social phenomenon may be controversial and none reflect the author's views. This content is for entertainment only. Just thought I'd get that out of the way. You can keep the main character's original name, or choose a new one. I'll do Reina. I like her eyes. Those are kind of nice eyes. Normally I go with Curvilicious, but I'll do Athletic for this book. Here is your hair choices. A lot of hair choices. Continue. Before proceeding, please set your preferences. Both. You'll have access to both. Enable hints. I want to enable. Your preferences. I want to begin the story. Prologue. In the year 2125, humanity lost a decades-long war for survival against monstrous entities known as the Colossi. No one knew their origin, nor their nature. Only their intent was clear: to annihilate humanity as a species. The planet now belonged to them. The remnants of humanity retreated behind the walls of 5 city-states scattered across the globe. Salvation, Ark, Expanse, Bounty, and Frontier. In 2134, the city of Salvation, built on the ruins of Rio de Janeiro, was completely destroyed by the Colossi in the massive attack known as Advent No. 1. Most of its population perished. In response, the leaders of 4 remaining cities formed an alliance called the Quadrant and agreed to construct the Magistral. A global high-speed underground rail network designed to reconnect humanity after years of separation. Construction of the Magistral was completed in 2182. In 2197, a second attack, akin to the one that wiped out Salvation, struck Frontier. The chroniclers of humanity named it Advent No. 2. Despite the enemy's overwhelming power, Frontier withstood the attack with the support of the Quadrant. Today, battles on its territory have raged for over 50 years. The city has become a militarized fortress, a bastion against relentless waves of monstrosities. Every citizen is a soldier. Meanwhile, resources, weapons, and food flood into the frontier from other Quadrant cities. But supporting Frontier takes a heavy toll on the citizens of Ark, Expanse, and Bounty. Everyone understands that defeat is only a matter of time when fighting an infinite enemy that is indifferent to laws. Thus, the Quadrant Council is left with only 2 options. Destroy the Magistral, isolating Frontier and blocking the Colossi path through the underground tunnels, or find entirely new ways to combat the overwhelming foe. Advent number 3. Episode 1. Warning Sirens. Foolish are those who believe that humanity is safe behind walls, for every wall eventually falls. Abraham Schilling, a military theorist, philosopher, and historian, lecturer at the Officer Corps Academy, executed by firing squad for anti-government activities that incited hatred and distrust of Chancellor policies. Present day, year 2249, Northern Canada, city of Arc. Hey, watch where the hell you're going! Raina lowered her head and pulled her hood further down over her eyes as she pushed her way through the crowd of night shift workers on their way home. Angry shouts echoed behind her, but she paid them no mind. She just mumbled automatic apologies. Sorry. Her heart pounded in her chest, her breath came in short gasps, and her mind was consumed by a single thought. Albert's been arrested. Arrested? Damn it. What am I going to do now? The answer was obvious. In the hands of the 3rd Division's interrogators, that crooked scientist will crack in no time. And he'll give them my name. Which means I'm done for. Damn it. Fear paralyzed her thoughts and drained her will. Raina braced herself for the inevitable blare of the loudspeakers and the lamppost announcing to the public, "All citizens, hold your positions. This area is under lockdown for search operations," telling her that they already knew that the chase had begun. She glanced over her shoulder and scanned the crowd, freezing when she spotted 2 operatives from the 3rd Division. Specializes in investigating criminal cases. 03 operative. The operatives hadn't noticed her yet, but they were actively scanning the crowd for their fugitive. They'll find me soon. The choice you're about to make will affect the plot. I should run away, blend into the crowd. Raina took a shaky breath. The mere thought of being caught made her legs turn to jelly. Slowly, so as not to draw attention, she turned and began walking in the opposite direction from her pursuers. Even though she had no idea where she was going. What am I supposed to do? Go home? Just wait? Or find Xander? After all, he's the reason I'm in this mess. But what could he even do? No. None of that matters right now. My priority is to get out of this sector before it's locked down. The city's internal walls divided Ark into isolated sections, making its layout, its ensemble, resemble a dartboard on maps. Each sector could be sealed off from the others at a moment's notice, like compartments in a submarine. Arc, like Expanse and Frontier, is divided by internal walls into districts and sectors, which can be isolated from one another in the event of an attack. This system worked perfectly during Colossi attacks. If one sector fell, the others could be saved. But now it threatened to become the perfect trap for a fugitive. Raina cast a glance at the towering wall that loomed over the rooftops. Its peak, along its heavy artillery and machine guns mounted on movable platforms, disappeared into the smog that drifted from the factories. At the moment, though, Raina only cared about the gates. Still open gates leading into Sector C-16. A green signal lamp above the gates confirmed that they were still open. I just need to make it. Please let me make it. She fixed her gaze on the light and repeated the words like a prayer. But when the gateway was a mere 100 feet away, the green light flickered off, replaced by an ominous red. A piercing siren cut through the air. Several hours earlier. The insistent buzzing of an electrical alarm jolted her awake. She opened her eyes. The room was dark but dim. Morning light seeped through the blinds. It was time to get up. She reached out and silenced the alarm without leaving the warmth of her blankets. In the ensuing silence, the distant crackle of machine gun fire echoed faintly, but she paid it no mind. Like most residents of Ark's sector near the outer wall, she had long grown accustomed to the sound of gunfire. It's probably the anti-air defenses fending off another attack by harpies. Of course, the creatures attacking the city weren't ancient Greek monsters, but much like the mythical harpies, they could fly. Humans have always been inclined to associate unfamiliar with the familiar, and to give everything dramatic names. The military in particular excelled in this habit. That's why the monsters that humanity had been battling for over 2 centuries bore names from ancient Greek mythology. Colossi and Gorgons, harpies, satyrs, titans, Hades, and many others. The alarm blared again, as if it knew that its owner hadn't gotten up yet. I guess I'll get up. Alright, time to get up. With a jump, she pushed herself out of bed. She needed to hurry to catch the train to the Central District. Maria won't wait for me. If I'm late, I'll be kicked out of the program in no time. And then it's back to extra night shifts at the factory. After a quick wash, she started to get dressed. Factory jumpsuit, casual clothes, best outfit, get everything. I'm gonna go with default actually for once. Continue. There. I'm not dressing up for a party after all. She fastened the last button, grabbed a jacket in case of bad weather, and dashed out into the street. She had barely closed the door behind her when someone called out. Earlier, you decided not to dress up. Yeah. Rain. I see you're staying true to yourself. Don't you have the day off today? Martin. She turned towards the voice of her old friend and snorted at his skeptical lug. Yeah, no shift today, and no extra clothes or either. At least this one's issued. Fair enough. Martin nodded approvingly and then asked, So, where are you off to, all dressed up like that? And then he immediately answered himself with a frown. Oh, to the scientists? What, still don't approve? Sorry, but no. As a chronicler of humanity, I'm pretty familiar with history. Chroniclers of Humanity, the official title for historians in the world of this story. And I confidently say that nothing good ever comes from the scientific community. Oh, Martin, let me remind you that you're technically a scientist yourself. It's not exactly polite of you to speak of your colleagues like that. They're not my colleagues. I study the past for the sake of the future to avoid repeating the same mistakes. You're Maria? She's breaking the laws of nature. Martin's face twisted with resentment. Raina gently finished his thought with a soft smile. For the sake of the future. That's just your opinion. He scoffed disdainfully. Raina agreed lightly. Yep, it's mine. Some choices shape your main character's personality. Some increase cunning, others resort ruthlessness, others enhance resolve, making her stand her ground, act more firmly. Okay. I'm going to... this is a serious topic, so respond seriously. But you're in no position to judge me, Martin. Not everyone gets a scholarship, in case you've forgotten. Most people have to work day and night just to survive. Yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. It's fine, don't worry about it. Alright, I gotta go. I'll see you tonight. Raina winked at her friend and then slipped into the stream of workers heading for the train station. There, they would board trains bound for the factories. In Ark, all industrial facilities were located in the Central District's production sectors for safety reasons. They were far from the outer walls and frequent harpy raids. The commute to the factories often took hours. But for most residents of the First District, it was the only way to earn a living. Of course, there were also work to be found near the outer wall. Bars, farms, workshops, even small businesses opened by enterprising citizens offered jobs. Where there were people, there was always activity. But private employers couldn't accommodate everyone, and the government was hesitant to allocate resources to sectors that were constantly under attack by monsters. They provided only bare minimum. They strung electrical cables through the area. Security, maintenance, repairs were reserved for government facilities, train stations, administrative office, and military outposts. Those lucky enough to work there were considered elite among the locals. Otherwise, the First District looked like any other city, struggling to recover from disaster. Pre-war buildings stood alongside crumbling ruins and makeshift shelters pieced together from scrap. Grass grew through the cracked asphalt. Some neighborhoods had become so overgrown that they resembled forests. Hastily strung power lines stretched like black veins across the landscape, feeding electricity from the power plants to other districts. Rain saw this every day, as her eyes drifted over the weary, dirt-gray faces of people around her, and saw only emptiness and despair in their reddened eyes. Her thoughts circled back to their conversation with Martin. It's not the first time he's tried to talk me out of joining the Golden Fleece program. He called me a foolish guinea pig, used for testing viruses and treatments on. Well, to be fair, he's not wrong. It's exactly how it is. In the story, your character can choose one of two paths. Dogma represents willingness to sacrifice the few for the greater good with a drive for control and authority. Renunciation, a longing to dismantle the existing system, reject the past, and build a new, freer world. Which path resonates with you? Well, this is going to be tough. I always believe in Spock's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. What else am I supposed to do? I'm going to go with that only seems at first glance. We'll see as we play. In truth, those of us who are involved in these studies are helping all of humanity. Not with empty words or lofty thoughts, but with action. The city is overpopulated, diseases break out every day, people work in unbearable conditions, and they live in them too, if we're talking about the First District. So, if the scientists can make life even a little easier for the people of Auric, isn't that a good thing? Even if it means someone has to sacrifice themselves for it. After all, that's just how it works. There's always a price to pay for a greater good. And in the end, it's my life and my choice to make. Besides, Maria assures me that there won't be any harm to my health now or in the future. And so far, I've had no reason to doubt her sincerity. Frustrated by Martin's refusal to see her perspective, Raina quickened her pace. Suddenly, someone in the crowd grabbed her by her arm. She was sure that it was her friend trying to talk her out of working with the research center again, and she spun around sharply. "Martin, listen, I've already told..." Raina froze mid-sentence. Fear gripped her. She realized that it wasn't Martin. Instead, standing before her was a grim soldier from the 6th Division. 6th Division, the internal defense forces of ARC's 2nd Echelon sectors. Rain. Commandant Hayes wants to see you. They serve as local police and act as soldiers during monster attacks. Yes, of course. Her mouth instantly went dry as she nodded hurriedly. Resisting didn't even cross her mind. The officer was silent the whole way. He escorted her to the office of Xander Van Hayes, commandant of the 2nd Echelon Internal Defense Forces of Sector C-161. Raina, my dear, I'm so glad you could make the time to stop by. As soon as the officer led her through the door, Xander greeted her with a smile. Raina was certain that he was smiling, even though she couldn't see his face. As always, Xander sat in his chair behind his desk, hidden in the deep shadows cast by the column of light streaming in through the window. But that detail was irrelevant. The commandant was always smiling. And that smile was enough to chill the blood of many. Take a seat, my dear. It's such a pleasure to see you. He spoke softly, almost tenderly, but his voice was low and insidious. It sent a chill down her spine. She knew full well that the commandant was not pleased with her. I must not let him see my fear. Hello, Xander. Glad to see you, as always. Raina steeled herself and sat down across from him. She mustered up a smile. Really? Though your invitation did feel a little rough? Ah, rough, you say. He leaned forward slowly. The light from the window fell across his face, allowing Raina to see it in detail now. Strong, masculine, with sharp features and full lips. The 3-day-old stubble, the vicious scar across his cheek, the cloudy, fogged-over eye, permanent reminder of the day they met. So, on the day of research, when you're supposed to deliver the goods, you disappear. You fail to show up, give no warning. Instead, you rush off to Central District as fast as you can. And when I instruct Braun to bring you to me, mind you, I asked him to bring you politely. Without breaking your ribs, without slashing that adorable little face with a razor, without even laying a finger on you, and you dare to tell me that my invitation was rude? With each word, Xander's voice grew quieter and more menacing. Raina felt the tension escalate. She responded with a soft, apologetic smile. I'm sorry, it was a joke. I was only joking, okay? Ah, a joke. I see. The commandant leaned back in his chair, seemingly relaxed, only to suddenly slam his fist on the desk with a thunderous crash. No, it's not okay. He rose sharply, startled. Raina shot to her feet as well. In an instant, he grabbed her face and shoved her hard against the door. Her head collided with it painfully. Listen to me, you... He stopped himself, his head tilted slightly as he struggled to regain his composure. Do you think this is a game? There's a lot of money at stake. People are waiting, and you're fooling around. Or maybe you've decided to quit. Or worse, hand me over to this 3rd Division dogs? No, of course not. I'd never. Ignoring the pain in the back of her head and numbing grip of his hand on her face, she shook her head frantically. She wasn't lying. Only a madman would dare to cross the corrupt commandant, who trafficked contraband from the Central Sector's laboratories to factory workers. They were primarily muscle stimulants that enabled longer and more productive work, but depleted the body's future reserves. In Sector C-161, Xander is king and god. If he wanted me dead, no one would question it. How many poor people die in the slums every day, anyway? You know, I believe you. After holding her a few more seconds, he eventually released her. Gently, almost tenderly, brushed a few loose strands of hair from her face as he spoke. Listen, Raina. I don't want us to fight. We've known each other for years now. We've been through so much together. Take your share. For instance, you don't help me for free. And yet, I have to force you to do it almost every time. Why is that, Raina? What's the problem? Because I don't like what we're doing. Raina averted her gaze in shame. I can't shake the feeling that we're killing everyone who buys this crap. Crap? Oh, Raina, we've gone over this 1,000 times. Xander looked directly into her eyes. He softly ran his finger along her cheek, almost brushing her lips. For all those poor souls, the stimulant is salvation. It's their only chance to earn a little more for their families and not drop dead from overwork. At least not right away. So understand this once and for all. What we're doing is a good thing. A blessing the government would never provide because they don't care about people living in the 1st District. Ark is overpopulated, and the more people die, the better it is for them. Do you understand? He fixed her with a piercing gaze. Listen, Raina, you need to trust me. After all, I presume you haven't forgotten that it's thanks to me that you're here in the city at all. Yes. And you, thanks to me. Raina lifted her chin defiantly, ready for whatever he might do. A sharp rebuke, a flash of anger, even a blow. But instead he just smirked. Talking back, are we? Still, you're not wrong. What's done is done. That's why I say we have a lot of history together. And then believe me, I'm genuinely glad for it. He returned to his seat behind the desk. Now go, or you really will be late. Braun will escort you and give you the payment for Albert. And Raina, next time you head to the Central District on business, wear something different, alright? Yes, understood. As she turned towards the door, she thought to herself, Xander is a rare bastard. He's a confusing person, I'll give him that. And yet, there's something about him. Knowing that Xander wouldn't see it, Raina smiled to herself, and, without saying goodbye, she hurriedly left the office. The last thing I need is for him to suspect something. After she left, Xander sat silently for a while with his gaze fixed on the door. A faint smirk played on his lips. Feisty Raina, what am I going to do with you? Because of their meeting with Xander, Raina arrived at Sector C-161 station at the very last minute, right when the train was about to leave according to schedule. Phew, any later and, well, that would have been it. But instead of almost an empty platform and a train ready to depart, she saw a crowd of factory workers gathered near the carriages. What happened? Why aren't they letting anyone board? Raina asked the question in confusion to a man standing nearby. He said nothing, simply gestured to a monitor mounted on a pole. Only then did Raina notice that everyone else was also staring at the screen. The monitor displayed a horrifying scene. Under the deafening rattle of anti-aircraft guns, people with faces contorted in terror were running through the streets. Men, women, elderly, children, dozens of harpies circled above them, hunting for prey. They were thin, grotesque creatures resembling oversized bats. Their leathery black wings spanned over 16 feet. Periodically, the monsters would dive into the crowd, snatching screaming victims before soaring high back into the sky. Some were dropped from deadly heights. Others were torn apart midair. Blood rained down on the living. Soldiers shot the harpies down. But even then, the civilians below found no respite. The carcasses of the downed monsters fell from the sky and crushed people to death. As a reminder, what you are seeing on screen are live images of the Gorgon incursion in Sector C-152, which is currently underway. At this very moment. Oh no, that's so close. According to the latest reports, over 100 creatures were involved in the attack. Major Frederick Stone of the 2nd Division, commanding the outer wall defensive forces of Sector C-152, has reported that the majority of the enemy was successfully neutralized before they reached the city. The 2nd Division frontline defenses of the outer wall, they are the first to face monsters in the event of an attack. The walls are engineering structures over 328 feet high, made of industrial-strength steel, reinforced concrete, with weaponry installations and barracks positioned at the top. I'm clicking. Nothing's happening. This looks like fun. Only a small number of creatures managed to breach the defenses and enter the sector. Soldiers from the 2nd and 6th Divisions are currently engaged in combat with them. Unfortunately, there are reports of casualties and injuries. At least 40 civilian deaths have been confirmed so far. In addition, train services through Sector 152 and the neighboring areas have been suspended due to the attack. Local administration officials will inform citizens when service resumes. We will continue to monitor the situation and keep the public informed. Our correspondent Adriana Keyword is already on the scene. The destruction in Sector 152 faded from the screen, replaced by the message, "Broadcast ended." The crowd broke into chatter. Some expressed sympathy for the victims. Others complained about missing work and incurring fines. A few openly criticized the government and the military. Among the latter group was the man that Reyna had addressed earlier. "Oh, worthless slackers. They sit around on the government paychecks and accomplish nothing." Reyna, however, wasted no time on pointless chatter. "If the trains through Sector 152 are suspended, I have only one way to get to Maria. I need to catch the next available train to the Central District and try to use the internal transit loop." She wasn't confident that her plan would work. The civilian movement from the 1st District to the rest of the city was strictly regulated. For example, she carried a research center-issued travel permit with clearance for a specific sector in the Central District. It didn't allow her to visit other stations. But she had to try. There was no other option. Central District of Arc Research Center, B44. Laboratory of Dr. Maria Shu. "Hi, sorry. Sorry I'm late." Reyna practically stumbled into Dr. Shu's office. Two burly men from the 4th Division tasked with guarding state facilities like the research complex steadied her by the elbows. "I hope I'm not too late." As expected, her unplanned trip to the Central District's internal transit loop had been anything but smooth. As soon as she stepped off the train in Sector 40, she was stopped by the 5th Division security forces who were responsible for security within the Central District. Routine pass checks were conducted for all arrivals, so their attention didn't surprise her. What surprised them, however, was that Reyna was in the sector not listed on her travel permit. Her explanations about the Gorgon attack and the cancelled trains fell on deaf ears. People from the impoverished C-sections weren't welcome in the prosperous and well-guarded Central District, where infrastructure and wealth far exceeded that of the 1st District. She was only released after her case was escalated to higher authorities. They issued her a temporary pass for the internal loop. When Reyna arrived in Sector B44, her documents were checked twice more before she reached the research center. All of this ate up the extra time she allowed her for herself. Reyna had to run from the station to the research complex, a trip that spanned several blocks. She didn't even have the chance to marvel at the monumental and awe-inspiring architecture of the Central District, as she often did on previous visits. "Ah, Reyna. Hello. Come in, of course." Maria was a pleasant-looking young woman with a soft, almost childlike features. She greeted Reyna with a warm smile as she stepped away from her microscope. Once again, Reyna found herself thinking, if I had met her on the street, I would never have guessed that she's one of ARC's leading scientists and one of humanity's greatest minds. So love interest, got it. I don't see the childlike qualities, just correct me if I'm wrong. She's pretty, though. "It's fine. You may go." Maria nodded to the guards. The senior officer assured her. "Understood, ma'am. We'll be right outside." "No, thank you. That won't be necessary. You may go." Though she smiled politely, her tone was cold. The guards hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." "Reyna, are you all right? You look a bit off." Maria watched the guards leave with a flicker of irritation, then turned her concerned gaze to her guest. "What did you come to see me straight after your shift?" "What? Oh." Reyna had almost recovered from her sprint. She glanced down at her plain, utilitarian outfit. No. "All right, well, give me your hand." Maria retrieved a tonometer and began checking her patient's vitals. A tonometer is a device used to measure blood pressure. "Have there been any side effects, any symptoms? Headaches, muscle pain, fever, hallucinations, nausea?" Everything's fine. Really." Reyna offered a reassuring smile and placed her hand gently over Maria's. "Yes, your readings are normal." A doctor lifted her gaze from the monitor. "You sure you're okay?" "I'm sure. It's been a rough day. Did you hear about the morning incursion?" "Of course, it's terrible. Those poor people." She frowned and let out a heavy sigh. The subject clearly troubled her. "But you weren't there, were you?" "No, I wasn't. But because of the attack, the trains from my sector were cancelled, and, well, let's just say the trip here wasn't easy. That's the real reason I look a bit worse for wear." "All right, I'll take your word for it." She nodded, still visibly tense. She began inputting data into her tablet. "I want to thank her for her concern, reassure about the research, stay silent." "Thank you for worrying about me." "Is it really something to thank me for?" She paused her note-taking and glanced at Raina in surprise. Then she smiled shyly and added, "And honestly, I don't know how you feel, but, well, personally, I think we could be friends." "Oh, I hadn't thought about it, but yes, maybe. That would be nice." The offer caught Raina off guard. She hesitated for a moment. "Then give it some thought." She winked and returned to her notes. Raina watched her and thought to herself, "I wonder, is she sincere about all this?" I wonder if she's sincere. Alright, so it'd be nice if that were true. Maybe it would be worthwhile for us to get to know each other better. Raina didn't even realize that she was smiling. "What's with you?" "What?" She was lost in her thoughts. Raina blinked at the scientist in confusion. "You're smiling." Me?" Raina finally snapped out of it. She nearly jumped in her seat. Her face turned red as she stammered. No, it's nothing. Just thinking about something." "Is that so? Well, all right." Maria shrugged. But on occasion, she glanced thoughtfully at her guest while she continued to input data. Raina quickly changed the subject. "So what's the plan for today? What are we doing?" "Today we're taking it easy. Your body needs rest. I'll take a blood sample, then Albert will administer a couple of compounds. Nothing major, just a stimulant mimic and a stammer virus blocker. We want to see if they neutralize each other." "Ah, got it." Raina nodded as Maria glanced at the door, where the silhouette of a man had appeared. She said, "Ah, here's Albert. Come in, we're ready." "Oh." She stood abruptly. Instead of the lab technician, a man in a blue uniform of the reconnaissance forces entered the room. He was tall, broad-shouldered, exuded an air of command that was palpable at first glance. Refers to the upper part of the formal military. It reminds me of an actor. As Raina observed him, she couldn't help but think, damn, that's exactly what a real officer should look like. Not a human, but a statue carved out of stone. Hell, he looks like he just stepped out of an army recruitment poster. "Hello, Colonel Carver." Maria was clearly nervous. She managed a faint smile. And when she heard his name, Raina understood the doctor's unease perfectly. Even she had heard of Colonel Zane Carver from Division 0. Zero external reconnaissance expeditions beyond the walls, officially part of the 2nd Division. Its operatives report directly to the Chancellor. There's probably no one braver or more daring than Zane Carver in all 4 cities. Maybe only his squad could match him. They've conducted over 50 expeditions beyond the walls into the wildlands. Even the front-line soldiers of the frontier couldn't rival his courage and survival skills. After all the battle, Colossi and Gorgons from the fortified positions, while Zane Carver regularly ventures into the monster's territory, and notably always comes back alive. I'd better not draw his attention, say hello. You know what, I'm gonna be nice, I don't give a shit, I'm not military, right? Raina decided that pretending to be a statue might come across as impolite. She said quietly, "Good afternoon." The colonel greeted her with a flat tone and a fleeting indifferent glance. "Good afternoon." Then, anticipating Maria's question, he added, "My apologies, ma'am. I didn't realize you weren't alone. I'll, come back later." "Oh, as you wish." She frowned in confusion and sank back into her chair. Carver turned with smooth precision and opened the door. "Goodbye, Colonel." Raina made an effort to ignore his arrogance. She chose to remain polite until the end. Carver paused in the doorway. He turned and fixed Raina with a heavy stare, and then he spoke through gritted teeth. "Goodbye." Then he left. The two women exchanged glances before exhaling in unison. "Has taken note of you." Raina decided not to ask why the reconnaissance colonel had come to see her. She was certain. Even if she wanted to tell me, she probably couldn't. Manner of reconnaissance aren't for ordinary people like us. Soon, she finished her part of the procedure. She left after bidding Raina a warm goodbye. Albert entered the laboratory in Maria's place. Good afternoon, Miss Rain." "Hello." Raina visibly tensed at the sight of her smuggling accomplice from the research center. Albert, on the other hand, flashed a routine smile. He sat down beside her and explained casually, "Today, I'll administer 2 injections. The first is a mimic of a physical strength and vitality stimulant. It is formulated to match the original, but with no actual side effects. Neither a positive nor negative. The second is an experimental blocker for the Stammer virus. The purpose of the test is to evaluate the compatibility of the compounds. It is a common illness found in the first district with symptoms similar to flu." "Yes, she already told me." Raina was hardly paying attention to Albert's explanation. She nodded absent-mindedly. She was always struck by his ability to remain completely calm and act as if nothing was wrong, even on days when they were doing business. The perfect criminal. Sometimes there's a fork in the plot, and in this path, the main character takes depending on whether you've acclimated more cunning or resolve. However, some forks may be determined by other stats. Unlike me. Do you understand the proposal of the injections and the risks involved? Albert looked at his subject with a dull gaze. He slowly slid a box of contraband stimulants towards her under the table. Okay. Yes. Raina hid the box under the hem of her blouse. She handed the payment to Albert in return, still under the table. You know, if she wore those other outfits, she wouldn't have been able to do that. I'm just saying the one didn't leave much room for anything, or any hiding. She had long understood why their collaboration took place in this room, and in this way. It had clicked during their second deal. There's not a single camera in this lab. I wonder why. Is it carelessness, or are the experiments conducted here that classified? And if it's the latter, maybe there are cameras after all, just hidden ones? The thought made her uneasy. She quickly pushed it aside. All right, it doesn't matter. Even if it's true, it's too late to panic now. After receiving her injections, Raina changed her clothes. She bid farewell to Albert, who had stayed to clean up, and left the lab. Hello. Still visibly nervous after the deal, she inexplicably greeted 2 people in civilian clothes who passed her in the corridor. Her unexpected greeting seemed to take them by surprise. Good afternoon." She hadn't gone more than 30 feet when she heard the 2 enter Albert's lab. One of them addressed the lab assistant with a loud, clear command. "Albert Carroll, 3rd Division, Rapid Response. Please remain where you are. We have questions for you." Damn it. We've been caught. Raina froze. I mean, have you? Because he doesn't have the stimulants on him, so... Just saying. A brief electric thought shot through her mind, quickly followed by a wave of terror. They're gonna arrest me. She glanced at the contraband stimulants hidden under her blouse. What do I do? Run or get rid of them? Taking them is risky. They're evidence. But throwing them away means I'll owe Xander. Then again, if 3rd Division operatives catch me, Depps will be the least of my worries. Some choices are time. Think fast. Dispose of the contraband? A beat. Then she tossed the stimulants into the nearest trash bin and walked briskly away down the corridor. Your choice has affected the plot. We'll love Xander. What else is new? How she ended up in Sector C-162, likely by boarding the wrong train, Reyna could no longer recall. Nor could she understand how she managed to leave the research complex at all. Why no one had stopped her, or why there hadn't been an immediate pursuit. Something tells me we screwed up and shouldn't have got rid of this stimulus. Damn it! Shut up! Oh well. That's the whole point of this shit, right? Damn it, this is it. I didn't make it. The blaring of sirens filled the air. Reyna froze in place. She spun around frantically, scanning the crowd for the 3rd Division operatives. But in the next moment, the metallic voice of the early threat warning system echoed from the loudspeakers. Attention! Sector C-162 is under attack. Colossus, Class Hades, Rank 3. Attention! If you hear this message, immediately evacuate. Open areas and proceed to the nearest shelter. Attention! Sector C-162 is under... What? A Rank 3 Hades? Like the people around her, she stood frozen in shock for a few long moments. Is that even possible? She locked eyes with a nearby factory worker and saw in his gaze the same confusion that she felt within herself. Then the ground shook beneath her feet, and the frenzied flow of people swept her away like a wave. Attention! Sector C-162 is under attack. We shouldn't have got rid of the stimulants. Anyway, oh well. I'll give you 5 on that one. Let's see our stats. 1 to Dogma. Renunciation, 0. Status, 1. Resolve, 2. 0 to Cunning, 0 to Awakening. Did we even go over Awakening? I don't think that's a stat we went over, if I'm not mistaken. I know status popped up in there during that, but yeah. No extra diamonds, I'm sad. But we did get a plus 30, so normally I think it's, what, 10? So, I accept. Let's hit continue and see what happens. New loading screen. Looks kind of nice. I know not a lot of you are fans of Malik, though, which is interesting. Alright, so episode 2. Only in hardship can one truly understand the essence of a person. Letters of the Muhammadis. Alright, so, long story short is, thank you all for tuning in. If you do want more, ASAP especially, drop a comment down below letting me know. Also, make sure that if you did enjoy the content, to like, share, and subscribe if you're not already. Hit that little bell icon too. You'll receive notifications for when content gets put up, especially if you're a fan of the content that I do here, which I am the only person on this planet out of 8 billion people that actually reads these episodes or chapters, apps, whatnot, and pretty much I know a lot of other people cover them, but they don't read at all. It's just tapping, which pretty much you yourself could do that. So I at least try and immerse you with voices and choices and things like that. So again, please consider supporting. Pretty much the app, in case you didn't know, has updated. So pretty much everything that we typically do, which is continue, is needing to be caught up now. Yay! At least I caught up with Time Capture and Astria 7, even Parallel. So I caught up with all those, so please consider checking those out. Oh, and the missing, too. I caught up on a lot of things, but pretty much these are the ones that I'll be covering ASAP and get those taken care of, and then we'll be covering other content as we see fit. Do keep in mind, Diamond Rush is going to be a while off, so yeah, just keep that in mind. Like, we won't be selecting all the outfits, but we will be making sure that the pertinent choices that actually do matter are getting selected, so do keep that in mind. Unless I see an outfit that looks just mwah. Let me know the thoughts on my main character's look. The eyes, again, I really like the unique eyes. I feel like I will be changing the hair, though, but I thought I would just go with something new versus the norm. So let me know your thoughts. But aside from that, catch you all later. Peace out.